Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations with International Coaches. This is October 5th, 2023, and our topic today is gaining confidence. And I have the privilege of being here with three wonderful coaches from around the world. Let's introduce ourselves, and we'll go around the screen counterclockwise, starting with Cass.
Oh, I knew you were going to start with me. Shelly Ann dropped out, and I was the only one here for a little bit, so I knew that was coming today. So I'm a holistic life mentor, and I'm interested in the bigger picture of what makes you you, the mind, body, and spirit. I work with my clients when they feel stuck, they're looking to overcome self-doubt and manifest their dreams. I work both virtually and in person here in Ontario, Canada. And I run the website catastrophe.com, where I often talk about lots of these topics, especially gaining confidence.
Awesome. Shelly Ann.
Hi, good day, everyone. I am Shelly Ann Edwards Barron from Trinidad and Tobago. I am a gratitude guide and habit coach, and what that means is that I work with those of you who you already have your goals set, but you're kind of stuck in getting started and completing the task. So we work with something called the gratitude strategy, which helps you to say it right, say it loud, and say it always, and build the habits that you need to get you where you want to be.
Excellent. And Gerald.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gerald Alexander, and I'm a wealth creator and lifestyle coach, basically giving people a sense of direction because a lot of people are wandering about aimlessly and they don't really know what they want. And it's up to us to make our own selves happy. And so just pretty much getting people to tap into what they desire, empowering themselves. I think it's going to be all round about today's subject, having self-confidence. Be yourself. That's pretty much.
Okay. And I'm Stephen B. Henry. I'm a digital content creator, online presence consultant, business success guide, and personal development mentor. I work with those wanting to start their own business, an online business, or to expand an existing one. And I can be reached at stephenbhenry.com or ultimatevirtualsolutions.com. And we're ready to get started on gaining confidence. Let me just say something about that for people that are listening, whether you're live watching. Well, of course you're live, but if you're watching the live presentation, or you're picking this up on replay. I think we all have issues with confidence, and it can tie in with what we've talked about before, imposter syndrome. And it can make us really feel unsure about what's going on. And, I've been around a while. And I was asked the other day if I could speak to some situation, and I don't have any trouble, getting into a presentation, talking to people, doing what I'm doing right now. But when I'm getting ready to do it, that's when my confidence wavers. When I install new software on my computer, my confidence slips a little bit. I've installed thousands of pieces of software on my computer and the computers of hundreds of other people. It works every time. So why do I feel a little insecure when I start? When I meet a new person, I can look them in the eye, shake their hand, talk to them, but inside, when I first meet them, I'm just a little bit nervous. So what is that? That's what we're going to talk about today. Things that we probably all feel. And if there's anybody who never has a problem, never feels insecure, please leave a comment wherever you're watching this. We're in several groups live, and we're being recorded on YouTube, where you'll be able to see it later if you wish. And of course, all of the lives on Facebook will be there as replays afterwards. Who wants to jump in and talk about gaining confidence? Help me
Well,
out.
I think I want to jump in there because you said when you said that, it reminded me of a post I made on LinkedIn, I think it's earlier this week, about having confidence in one area, but none or very little in another area. There was a video that I shared, it was a repost of someone else's comments. There was a little girl walking on one of those glass sky bridges, and she was all Miss Confidence, tapping like a supermodel walking. And right behind her was this little boy on his knees. He just couldn't move from where he was. He was just locked into place on the glass and totally stuck. And that made me realize, we can have some people seem to always have confidence and some people don't. But if you change situations, then it could be the reverse. And what I found with me, like you, Steve, because I'm a lecturer and I'm a teacher and I am accustomed to this kind of thing, I, if it's on communication, gratitude, writing, um, film production, and a host of other topics, I can start a conversation, join a conversation, do a presentation at the drop of a hat. You will never find me on that bridge, however, ever.
Yeah.
And something that other people do that I don't drive either. And so there are areas where I am like 100% plus VAT confident, and other areas where nope, and that's just it, nope.
I think that's a part of confidence, though, knowing your strengths and your weaknesses, knowing when you can take the driver's seat or when you can let somebody else take that. Actually knowing yourself really well and knowing what you see as positive in yourself, or you see as things that you haven't spent so much time on. They don't have to be negative things, but you choose not to drive. There may be all kinds of reasons about anxieties or whatever they are, but you are really good at what you do, and that's where the confidence is.
And I think that's an excellent point to make about confidence and self-confidence. We have confidence in tasks, confidence in abilities, and then confidence in ourselves, which are actually three different things.
Hmm. Gerald, you look like you've got something turning over in the brain there.
Well, it's pretty much everything that's been said here. It's like knowing, like Cass said there, knowing yourself and pretty much being yourself. I think the being part is very, very important. It's all about self belief and be yourself confidently. Whereas when you know yourself, that you can do things a lot better when you're doing them confidently, but you've got to know yourself. And the word confidence actually comes from the Latin word, or a Latin word. I'll not even bother trying to pronounce it, but it means to trust. Now, basically, so self confidence is to trust yourself. Now, that would just eliminate like doubt, fear, um, or the way Cass said it. Maybe it's just as good to know what you don't want as what you do want. But it's all about know who you are, and having the confidence at what you're good at, and what you want. Or I think it's all about it's all got to. One of my favorite quotes is go confidently in the direction of your dreams and live the life that you imagine, because only you can imagine that. And we're all the same. The only thing that separates the four of us and everybody else is the way we think. It's our mind, so it's all about the self dialogue and the words that we're using. And I think a great affirmation is I like myself. Now, if you can't say that confidently in the mirror to yourself, then how can you trust that guy? I doubt what he's saying.
Yeah, that's so perfect. Shelley Ann referred to three different factors in confidence, three different types of confidence, and two of them: trust yourself, trust your skills, And what was the third one, Shelley?
I can't remember. Oh,
Oh, we'll have to do
so
a
yeah,
quick
it was
rewind here.
trust yourself, confidence in yourself, confidence in ability, and I think it was confidence in this situation.
Okay, yeah.
Next time I'll take notes.
So trust the situation. It all comes to trust in all of those cases, and if you have trust in that, the glass bridge, if you trust that that glass is solid, or you don't care, the little girl, just skipping across it, um, then you're okay with it. But if you're not sure about that, if you're not sure about installing the software, if you're not sure about how it's going to turn out when you meet this person, then you don't have the trust. So, Gerald, you're right on about that. Cass.
I'm afraid of heights, and the thing is, I'm not afraid of tall buildings. We have here in Toronto, we have the CN Tower. It's not the tallest anymore, but it's certainly quite a tall tower, and it also has a glass floor, and I can walk out on that no problem because I know that I trust the engineers. I know that I trust that it's going to stand, and I know that it's a really big deal if I fall through that. Somebody else will be in trouble, so it's probably okay. But I can never go on a chairlift with skis on my feet because I don't trust my own ability not to be awkward and fall out of that chair. That would be on me. I'm not very good when it comes to agility and movement. I have disabilities, and so I do not trust my own ability in that moment. I'm confident enough to know that I can't do that.
Interesting.
I think it's interesting to find out, like, confident what the word actually means, and trust. And I think, like, self belief is the first step towards anything, and confidence is building upon that self belief. And the more you believe in yourself, the more you achieve, the more confidence that you get. And I think a good one, like we've kind of ran over there, and what you were saying, Cass, is like, and also what you were saying, Shelley Ann, is, well, why would you not go across that bridge? Why would you never be on that bridge? And why do you feel that way? And do you want to continue feeling that way? Is there any need for you to continue feeling that way? Where did that belief come from to either point you in the direction of being very confident or not confident at all?
Yeah, the thing in what you said that really got me, and I could answer that question. I don't think I need to be there. I don't consider that fun or interesting. And so the question that you asked is, do I want to continue feeling that way? To me, it's not an issue because it's not taking away joy from me because I find joy in lots of other things. It's not removing any ability from me because I'm quite capable in other things that I'm happy with. And so, do I want to? And that's where the issue is in terms of when we have challenges with our confidence. If we feel like we're not confident in an area, but we want to be confident in that area, and we believe that being confident in that area will help us get to where we want to be and accumulate what we want to accumulate, then that is where the issue is, not so much the issue of am I confident or not. I'm not a confident pilot, but I don't really care to be a pilot, so that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you had a need to cross that glass bridge,
Hmm.
a life threatening need, you probably would do it because you would you know sum up the courage to do what you're not confident with because you know it is necessary for the circumstances. A family friend of ours, years and years ago, um, she was a young girl, I think about 14 or 15 at the time, and her dad had a heart attack, and they were out on a farm and no telephone. And she dragged him to the car, got him in the car. She did not drive, did not know how to drive, but of course she'd ridden in the car and seen her father driving the car, so she did what she remembered that he did, started the car, drove it, and went several miles to the town, to the hospital, and saved her father's life. She wasn't confident about driving, but she had a need that allowed her to find that within her. And so I think that confidence is connected to us in some way in our spirit, that we can call upon it when we have a need. So uh, what Gerald says about trust really speaks to it so well. And trusting in ourselves is drawing on that need and making things happen. And if we remember that, if we think about that, and we see other people who are confident, and we don't just think, oh, they've got confidence and I don't. We've all got confidence. We simply have to choose to use it.
Yeah, I have about a couple things that I wanted to share about the gaining piece, because we aren't born necessarily with that confidence. We have to work on it. We have to work on different parts of who we are. We have to figure out that we have these abilities. And what you speak to, Steve, building the capacity for the energy. So even though you might be nervous or scared or afraid of failing, it's letting those nerves fuel you rather than pull you down. It's realizing that that can be part of confidence, that like just like you said, before you get on the chat, you have that feeling, there's the nerves going on, but you push through that uncomfortability. So building the capacity for that, and the only way that you do that is by doing that. So you have to push through it. Another one might be imagining yourself doing it. So if you just engage in some mental imagery, or if you engage in role playing with somebody that you're comfortable with, a coach or somebody, a good friend, and walk through what it would be like if you did this thing that you don't have the confidence for. Another one is just about movement. If you are sitting in that fear and you aren't able to move forward, like that little boy was on the bridge, actually just any kind of movement, because especially if you are if you're feeling stuck, then movement will help release endorphins, and that will make you feel better. And then you'll feel better about yourself, and then you'll be in a better mood all around, and then maybe you can take that next step. So just engaging in mindful movement can help you get through some stuff.
Can I interrupt with two things?
Yes, you absolutely can.
I have to mention gratitude because this is like one of the foundation aspects of building and getting into that momentum with confidence, because I see it as a continuum. And if it is just you're working on something that you're trying actively to build confidence in, recognizing what actually exists and what is present makes a difference. And so what I do when I want to do something like um in a situation where, like with teaching, and like you, Steve, at the beginning of every term, every class, before I go live, I have to take a deep breath and remind myself I get to do this. I enjoy teaching. I understand this, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to do what I'm doing. Before this live, because this is the first time we revealed our awesome intro, and and I had to do the click, and I had to make sure the click was at the right time. So I get to do this, and I get to have these conversations with you awesome people, and all those who comment and so on. And so I remind myself of that in these kinds of situations. And the other thing I want to mention is building confidence in an area, especially if the confidence has to do with a skill or ability, means also paying attention to that skill or ability. So I am learning more and more about the streaming platform. So I know what to do and what happens when I do things this way and when I do things this other way. So I have the information and I have the knowledge to act on. So, in addition to adding the gratitude, I keep refining my skills so that I know what to do And therefore, when I do the deep breathing and the mindfulness and everything, I can act because I have the ability.
And
You
knowing
touched
that
on
you
something
can
really. Oh,
is,
go ahead, Steve.
yeah, just going to say that knowing you can is a big part of that. Yeah. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Kat.
Yeah, you touched on something really good there that Gerald touched on as well, is that internal dialogue. You were
Yeah.
saying those things to yourself. And we often don't think about the fact that we listen to ourselves the most. We might think that we listen to our friends or our mentors or those people that say the wonderful things to us, but we actually have that entire internal dialogue. And if it's rearing its head and saying things that aren't great, then it's going to tear you down. And you get to choose. You get to rewrite that if you want to rewrite that. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes confidence in yourself to be able
And
to say,
community.
and
Yeah.
community. That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I know Gerald is very big on community, and it just shows how all of these things tie together. We are four different coaches approaching coaching in different ways, focusing on different disciplines, niches, and yet it all comes around to many of the same things, and yet approached in a slightly different way. Cass, you said about imagining, and Shelley Ann, you spoke about picturing yourself, and Gerald has talked about looking at yourself in the mirror and having that reflection. I studied drama in university, theater arts, and I was fortunate enough to have a lesson from Michael Caine, the British actor. And one of the things that he talked about was when you are working in live theater and you have to play a role, and it has to be right because you're in front of the audience live. In film, if something goes wrong, cut, and they can reset the scene and take it again. And in some filming of some movies, there can be 30 or 40 takes on a particular piece before they get it right. But he said in live theater, you need to be right. And what he did is just off stage in the wings, just before he walked on stage, he imagined the character. He imagined himself being the character. And then he expressed outwardly what he imagined that character would do. And in that moment, he stepped on stage and he was the character. And when I learned that took away all the butterflies I'd had and the nervous moments of stepping on stage. When I first, I'd done a few small school plays and so on, but I'd never been in in the moment of theater the way it was in university. The university I went to had a beautiful Shakespearean thrust theater and just an amazing place to, big raked gallery and to be participating in that. And especially, when you're on a standard theater that has the arch theater and you're behind the arch and the audience is out there, there's an imaginary wall. But when you're in a thrust theater, Shakespearean style theater, it sticks out into the audience and the audience is around you. And, you can be in a position where you're not facing the audience. The audience can be behind you while you're facing another part of the audience. And the old adage of never turning your back to the audience no longer applies. You have to work within that. And getting the confidence to do that was tricky for me. I actually, believe it or not, I am a shy person, and I grew up as a shy child, and at the young age going to university and still being shy, it was difficult to do that. But those words from an accomplished actor, I had seen him in the movie Zulu, was my first encounter with him, and I really enjoyed that movie, and it made an impression on me. And then to have him share that, he overcame his nervousness. Whoa, wait a minute! this guy's a top actor. How can he be nervous? And realizing that we all did that. And then I embraced his words and have used them ever since, oftentimes subconsciously, because I'm not aware of that change, that building of the, uh, not necessarily character, the building of me, the version of me that's going to be there in that engagement, whatever it is. And so confidence, Cass, you're absolutely right. It's something that we develop, we gain confidence. Not only in a situation, as the situation develops, we can gain confidence, but we gain confidence in our life and we learn how to be confident. And then we apply that as we go forward.
And another way that you just so eloquently explained with a beautiful example is by observing others and engaging with mentors, coaches, and guides.
Yeah, there is a purpose for
Yeah.
that. Cass, go ahead.
I was going to say, before you heard from Michael Caine and you didn't feel that confidence, there were probably mistakes made. You probably had some failure. And one of the things about confidence and self-confidence and gaining confidence is that you have to just try and try and try again. It's okay to fail. It's okay to be knocked down. It's okay to be on the way to becoming yourself who's confidence. And one of those things is that, instead of being knocked over by that failure, is using it to be spurred on by a challenge. Like, oh, I did this thing, it didn't work, I can try it again. I feel challenged. I feel like I can gain this confidence in this, whatever the act may be. Act, it could be acting.
Yes. And that's interesting. Again, Gerald likes to look at language, and the use of words is so important. We, how can I say this? Failure isn't, to me, it's not failure at all. When something doesn't work, we often call that failure. I have learned more from my miserable failures than I ever did from easy successes. And I mean, the easy successes are nice, and I'll take them all day long. But when something does go wrong, when it does not work, when the outcome is not what we had planned on or hoped for, we can examine that. And in examining it, we can find what we did wrong, what the system did wrong, what nature conveyed to us that we didn't count on. I mean, it might not even be wrong. It may be right, but we just didn't interpret it properly. And in doing that, in the analysis, we build confidence, we gain confidence to do it again, to try
So
it
let me
again.
ask a question then. Do you think it's gaining confidence, that strength, as you just mentioned, from failure, from things that didn't go according to plan? Do you think we gain more confidence from that than if things do go according to plan?
I don't know about more, different. When they go to plan, we also gain confidence because we feel that we achieved what went right. It may be luck, it may be circumstances, right place, right time. It may not be anything we did at all, but the feeling, the positive feeling of that achievement allows us to gain confidence. People lose confidence with failure if they interpret failure the wrong way. If they see failure as their doing, or their failure, if they embrace the failure as their own, instead of looking at failure as evidence, as that they can examine, as data that they can use, then failure leads to confidence. It's not that you want to try failure. It's not a
We don't
desire
aim
to
for
fail.
failure.
Right, exactly. But when we have that happen to us, whatever the reason, our own incompetence, our own misjudgment, the acts of other people, circumstances, all those different things that can lead to failure, and we then examine how that happened, then when we try again, we can have a confidence that we won't do that part again, or we won't allow that part to filter in, or we will wait for the right time, the right set of circumstances. If you're launching a rocket to the moon and the moon's on the other side of Earth and you're shooting the rocket out that way and it doesn't get to the moon, that's a failure. But you learn that you've got to actually aim for the moon. So, and in fact, you learn even further as you get better and better at it that you don't aim for the moon itself. You aim for where the moon is going to be when the rocket gets there. And that applies to anything where you're trying to have two moving bodies connect. And so, we learn. Knowledge is always so positive. Gerald, I noticed on your timeline today. I got onto your timeline by accident, your Facebook profile, and you have a picture there of a car made out of a book, a convertible car with a guy driving the car, and it has a caption on it, something about learning is the pathway to success. And I thought that was just so powerful. And it's very subtle, but it hammers home an idea. And the driver of that car, you could see, was very confident in his driving because he had the knowledge that he needed to be driving that car. And in fact, the very car itself, made out of a book, was the epitome of knowledge. It was very, very powerful. So
I'll just jump in there and extend on the answer that Shelley Ann Kenny gave there. Whereas it's got a lot to do with the confidence, and a lot of it is like, I'm just going to kind of throw it out there rather than keep it in order. It's as if our self dialogue is our sat nav. So we're like an aeroplane, flying, and as soon as the aeroplane takes off, it's out of direction like 99% of the time. It's constantly tweaking, and how everything that we've discussed in the past is always interacting. Like, are you focusing? Did you lose your focus? Like, what do you have to? Is your confidence? Are you still confident? You remember where you're going? But then again, it also starts off, to answer your question, Shelley Ann, a little further. It's gratitude. Where are we starting off from? Because an awful lot of us just start off and take everything for granted. Someone said something to me the other day. We overestimate what we can achieve in a year and underestimate what we can achieve in 5 years. So it's like, where are you starting from? Like, when you're waking up in the morning and say, what am I grateful for today? And then when you really can start thinking that way, like, I had this conversation today. Your eyesight, if I says, I'll give you $100 million for your eyes, oof. When you talk about self-worth and value, and liking yourself, you've wakened up that day for a start. You've got eyes that you wouldn't sell for $100 million. So it's not the financial end of it. You've got your hearing, you can step out, up and get up on your 2 feet. All these things to focus on. Whereas what seems to be the problem that I'm learning a lot is people seem to focus on what they don't have, and they don't look in the mirror to see what that who that is that's there, and be grateful. This is where I'm starting off from. It's the same as like going to like a train station or an airport or walking into a mall. Before we can start moving in the direction that to get to where we want to get to, we have to find that big arrow that says you are here. You've got eyes to be finding your way there. You've got 2 feet to find your way there. You've got the car keys. You've got a car. Wow. And then I'm going to leave this house to get there. Ooh, I must have money to be able to put fuel in my car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the gratitude of where you are now, where you're starting from, and then also knowing where you're aiming. right? The other side of it, the goals that you're going to have, and what it will look like when you get there. So that again sort of pulls back to imagining. You think about all those things that you said, Gerald, about where you are, being grateful for them, and then spending your time, a little bit of your time anyways, thinking about what it'll look like when you get to where you want to go, thinking about all the sensory impacts of what that will be, whatever your goal is, and then having that confidence to move from one place to the next place. And what are the steps in between, the SMART goals that you set, things that you do with your coaches, hopefully.
Yeah. And including, I'd like to include in that, Cass, how it would feel when you get there. Because sometimes we really don't understand what it would look like exactly. We have this vague idea. So we work on how to explain it to someone else, but we know how we want to feel when we get there. And
Right.
so that to me is also part of the equation, knowing how we want to feel. So we say we want to feel confident. Well, what does feeling confident actually feel like? So having at least an idea of what that is. So maybe I want to feel knowledgeable. I want to be aware that I have the ability. I want to feel satisfied. I want to feel, and so we try to articulate that so that we understand the feeling that we're aiming for. Because one of the things that I've learned is that if I try too hard to draw and outline and visualize where I want to be from my perspective, I'm limiting myself. Because what is out there and what is available and what I can achieve is way beyond what I can imagine. So for me, it's
Mm-hmm.
an awesome start, but I feel like I want to understand and keep that at the back of my mind. So I always add in or something better than
A
I
good
can imagine.
a good one for that is to remember it's not perfection, it's progress. It's a
Mm.
journey. So, like for you to say you're limiting yourself by trying to draw this perfect picture of your future, and how would that feel when you're trying to make it perfect? You are limiting yourself, because none of us will ever be perfect because it's an unfolding journey. As long as you're making progress, taking it closer, because the picture will constantly be changing. Because, like as Steve's always saying, life is a journey, not the destination. So by the time you get to that destination, the same as I am, by the time you've said I am, that when you've changed from when you started saying it, So, and touching on what Steve said also about the acting, and what we're talking about just now is no one else is thinking in our head. I mean, it's totally up to us what we're thinking. And and when you talk about the acting and Michael Caine, it's like we're the script writers, we're the actors and the audience of our life. So it's not just imagine uh, like how we're talking about getting confident before you touch that button, before you speak to somebody. Basically, we've just got to do that. You'll have heard that it's not a life's not a rehearsal. Whereas we've just got to do it on the spot, impulsively, no, and just live it, be it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I think we are the rewriters of that script. I think that sometimes, especially in childhood, especially if there's trauma, I think that sometimes we have scripts that have been given to us, unduly given to us, that we don't necessarily know where they come from, generational trauma, those sort of things. And I think that sometimes that knee-jerk reaction is not ours. And it's the second reaction that you have. It's the second thought that you have. It's the rewrite of that script that you have, that is yours, that you own fully, that you get to control. I do believe that very often, again, especially when there's trauma, that people have internal dialogue that didn't come from them. And I mean, it's in their head for sure, but it came from that outward source. that they hear their father or their brother or their coach at school or their teacher, somebody that has said something to them.
Yeah, and I think with those scripts and something Gerald said had me thinking, for some people, when they hear we just have to, that is part of a script that is that brings negative connotations for them and they kind of shut down. And for me, the gap between knowing what to do and getting it done, that's the area where many of us have challenges. So what do you do when you know where you want to be, you have an idea, even though it's not cast in stone, because you're flexible and you're open to, more and becoming more, and you want to get started, but you don't know how because you're thinking with the, confidence and so on. And the reason I asked the question about confidence in things going right is because I feel like that's where imposter syndrome has some energy. Because even when things go right and we can use that as evidence that, hey, we do know what we're doing, the imposter syndrome, quite often based on those scripts that Cass mentioned, that we didn't write ourselves, but we're continuing with them, that's where that comes in. So even the things that are meant to imbue us with confidence sometimes doesn't because of those scripts and that gap. And so this is where habits come in for me, where we get to review our habits and determine, are these habits reinforcing this script that I didn't write? Or am I actively paying attention to these habits and writing my own script?
I
Yeah,
think that's where I find that where I find going back to a sense of direction, it's just so important because our daily decisions, what you just said there, Shelley Ann, of our choices, is it helping us get to where we want to get to? And do what we want to do and have what we want to have. Whereas most people have not figured that out yet. When I say to people, what is it you really want from your life? And they'll say, well, they'll look at me as if, where did you get a question like that? That's such a profound question. And then when I wait, they'll say, well, I guess I just want to be happy. And I'll say, well, what would make you happy? 90% of them don't know. How can you ever make yourself happy? Heading in that direction. Where's that taking you? That goes back to the Cheshire cat. It doesn't matter what road I take. Well, it doesn't matter what no doesn't know where it's doesn't matter where I arrive at. So if you want something specifically, I think that's um, I think that's what life's all about. Basically, I listened to somebody yesterday, funny enough, and I don't know, Steve, if you listened to that I posted on my Facebook group, and it was a reverend basically saying that God put us on this earth to manage life. And the guy that was interviewing him was saying, whoa, I've never heard it like that before. Because that's basically what we are talking about here. Like, what are we tweaking on our journey, like an airplane? I lost my concentration there. I wasn't confident. Where are we going again? Oh, I was distracted. So it's up to us, knowing what we want, tapping into what we're good at, our talents, where our purpose is. And I've shared the jigsaw puzzle with the three of you. I was going to say the four of you, but that was including me. But it's pretty much like playing that jigsaw puzzle with a piece in your hand and figuring it doesn't fit in there. I don't fit in here. I don't fit in there. And it's tweaking it, like what do we want, and then acting like the part. And before I forget, Cass, I think the 21st century is giving us that quantum leap, like Shelley Ann, you were talking about the feeling part and being able to pretty much feel what that person would feel like when you've achieved that. That's kind of the law of attraction drawing you towards it. And when you start feeling like that and start behaving as if you already are that person, you become that person. And that's like a quantum leap. No, it's not taking you 3, 5 years to become that person. You pretty much are there. You've beamed into that character.
Hmm.
Hmm.
There's so much to respond to there, but there's one thing that I wanted to say about I I often have I get questions about, all right, so I'm not there. How do I imagine that? How do I imagine how that would feel and so on? And for me, what it comes down to is something that you had mentioned earlier, Gerald, about being grateful for where we are, what we're starting with. I think the connection and what really draws us there to where we want to be and where we are is the fact that we are satisfied to a point we are grateful in both situations. So the gratitude attracts the gratitude. And so we're not coming from a place of lack. We are, there is something that we want and we're going after it because we're constantly growing and learning. But even where we are, there is enough here to be grateful for. And so that feeling connects with the feeling at the other end. And I recognize that for some people, that is not a simple thing. It is not just automatic to say, okay, let's be grateful. Cass mentioned trauma. When we have experiences that are extremely unpleasant, and especially if there are multiple feelings and situations that are unpleasant, it's not so easy, for me, because I've been through it and I'm kind of on the other side of many of the things that I would label as traumatic. I feel different now, but I remember what it was when I was there and the process of coming out of it. And so I'm always really cautious about, talking about, the mindset and the gratitude and all of that, because I recognize that sometimes what really makes a difference is the action and the habit, and in creating that, we have to consider the external environment and the situation. What are the things that activate what we want to do? What are the triggers? What are the catalysts that activate us? And so when it comes to confidence, with the imposter syndrome and with anxiety and with all the other things, it's really that reminder. And I use gratitude as my, keystone habit, my core activator, because it helps refocus and get me out of the imposter and get me out of the anxiety. So it's quite useful for me. And that's why I tell people gratitude is a habit and it's a strategy, because it's extremely useful if you understand how to do it and how to work with it.
Absolutely, I see that, Shelly, and that when you're creating those habits and you're reinforcing them, then you are living them, right? The way Gerald was talking about. Something that I know there has been, I think, questionable research, but I know there's been research done. I wanted to bring up when we talk about feeling, power stances. That if you can put your body in a position that feels powerful, it can help you have confidence in that moment. So if you're looking at a new or an opportunity and you're there like, well, maybe I can do it, versus if you're standing in something like what they call the Superman pose, which is a little difficult to do on this screen, but you got your hands on their hips, your cape
And
your cape is floating in the wind,
and you have
and
to angle your body effectively, right?
yep, you're saying, yes, I can do this with confidence, right? There actually are different
Mm.
physiological and chemical things that happen inside your body when you do
Yeah.
those different physical actions that are kind of like Michael Caine on the edge of the theater there, on the edge of the stage, because he put that into effect. It's if the body can go into the right mode, then you can follow it.
Yeah.
To make that even more powerful, that pose I've heard of is the Wonder Woman pose. So for you ladies, changing the wording again is keying in and touching more. Wonder Woman. I'm not just a woman. I'm a Wonder Woman. Let me show you. Yeah.
The thing that I see across all of this comes back to goals. And Cass, you suggested SMART goals. And I recall a mentor of mine sharing about goals. And first of all, what he said was set your goals in concrete and draw your plans in the sand. And when I understood that, it made a lot of sense and it was great. But then he went on to explain that we can be setting the wrong goals. And if we set the wrong goal and we don't make allowances for that, we set our goal in concrete, in other words, it's unchangeable, then we work on it by creating plans and actions. And if they turn, if we don't get to the goal, don't scrap the goal, wipe out the sand, scrap the plans and create new plans. That's all great. But sometimes when we're new to this and we're not following a good coach or guide, we don't have one. Our own mind isn't made up. We're lacking in confidence. And so we've learned about goal setting and we choose a goal. We think where we want to be and we choose the goal, but it's the wrong goal. We chose badly. We didn't refine it enough. And sometimes we feel pressured to set this goal way out there, to choose a goal that's way out. And then we get a lot of flack from people. Oh, you can't do that. You'll never get there. That's not within your reach. And that becomes a problem too. So what we need to do is recognize, as has been talked about here, I think by everybody, the idea that we move forward through a continuum and we can set goals along the way. And Gerald's airplane example that even if it's flying on automatic pilot, it's not flying on a straight line. The wind causes it to veer off that course, and so it has to adjust and go back. But to go back, it doesn't go on the same course. It goes the wrong way, the other way, to get back to where it needs so that it can adjust and go on that course again. And so we need to be able to change our goals and set goals for different things. If we get off course, a goal might be getting back to where the course line is. And that goal is a short-term goal, a small goal. And when we get there, we then reset our goal back onto the original path. But in the process, we may have learned things that tells us the original path isn't correct either. And unlike an airplane flight where the airplane, the pilot knows where it's going, there's a destination determined, we may, in our own lives, change those destinations. We may set out heading for Chicago. Along the way, we realize what we want isn't in Chicago. We need to go to Toronto. And so that's the difference between machines and people. We will change what it is we want to do. And we have to have the confidence to be able to do that. We have to be able to realize that this isn't correct. Not that we necessarily made a mistake, because back when we made the choice, that may have been what we wanted. But as we've progressed, as we've learned, as we've seen other things around us, a fellow that I listened to quite a lot, his name is Charles Paul Kahn. He's I think he's still the chancellor of a university in Tennessee. And he used to talk about his daughter when she was young wanting to be the queen. And on one hand, people were telling her, teachers were suggesting, you can be anything you want to be. And so she wanted to be the queen. And he felt very bad, but he had to tell her that job was already called for. And she couldn't be the queen. She'd have to choose something else. And this is the kind of thing that we have to deal with, that what we choose initially, what we feel we want, and what we have all the confidence in the world towards getting may not be possible, or it may not be what we ultimately want or what we want next week. And so we also have to have the confidence, and this kind of touches back to what you said early on, Cass, about the negativity and the failing, and still having the confidence, and how that applies there. We have to have the confidence to be able and willing to make changes. Changes, choices, most important thing we can do. And
Yeah.
so if we have the confidence to make choices and recognize even when we make the wrong choices, or again, not necessarily the wrong choices, but not the choice that is going to be best for us, or we're going to change, and so we need a different choice, we can have that confidence and go through our life living our life. I think that's very, very powerful. And it's one of the areas where we do grow in confidence. We gain confidence as we understand the flexibilities within our life.
Yeah, and I think one of the ways to gain that is understanding, and we've spoken about this, all of us, in different ways, understanding that it's a journey.
Yeah.
And for me, that is the beginning of gaining confidence in the confidence, gaining confidence and gaining confidence,
Yeah.
I think that
understanding
it's
it's a
important.
journey.
I think that it's important that it's your journey, or Gerald's journey, or Steve's journey, or my journey, right? It's not just the or a journey. That's where that
Hmm.
confidence is. It's confidence. This is my journey, and I get to be the
Ah,
one
yes.
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
makes
I see.
habits, or
That
has the
was what
gratitude,
I
or
said, Cass. Like, no one else is thinking in our head.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
yours, and it's yours, and it's yours. And what confidence means to each of us is a different thing. What success means to us is a different thing. And talking about, like, wrapping this up, like, with the confidence, I think the best word that would describe our conversation today is gratitude, Shelley Ann. Because all these changes that's happening, that we've got to be confidently making. And then if we weren't learning and there was no obstacles, how could we possibly build that on that confidence, and be grateful in today, that you touched on earlier, in the present moment, that we have these opportunities to create that future for ourselves.
Absolutely. We're coming up on our time here. We want to try to keep this to an hour, and beautifully, we started right on time today. Gerald, you just summed that up so eloquently. I think that is a great place to stop. Um, and we've covered a great deal here, which opens the door to several different topics that we can pick up in our next section, our next session. Do we want to just kick that around quickly? Is there a topic that comes to mind out of all of this that we should go forward with? Cass, a thought?
Um, the first word that's coming to my mind is trust, and I'm not sure how that's different from confidence, because confidence is so maybe I can't think of it. So is there somebody else who has an idea?
No,
I've
but
got
I
an idea.
actually like that idea. Yeah. Go ahead, Jared.
Trust.
Gerald?
Well, I think we're pretty much pulling in. We always pull in, like, focus and other things that we've covered, in previous ones. And trust's very much like the confidence, when pretty much that's what confidence means from the old Latin word. But I would like to package this, and take the opportunity to pick what we speak about next week, and say life.
I don't know if an hour is enough time for
Yeah,
that.
Yeah,
that conversational life will take a lifetime. Yeah.
yeah. That's the thing. Life embraces everything. You're right. It's a package, and
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
the focus and I have the confidence to say this. I think the focus of these sessions is that we deal with facets of life, all of them.
What about the
Let's
only constant in life is change?
change. Ooh,
Yeah.
Have we touched on change?
Yes, but I don't think in one of these recordings. But the reason I liked trust is because trust, we spoke about it in relation to ourselves, but then we can expand trust to trusting our mentors, trusting our coaches, trusting others, trusting the process. And I think there's more that we can get into.
yeah, I agree with
I'm down
that.
for trust.
And we brought up trust. Gerald brought it up as the meaning of the Latin of confidence.
Hmm.
It's a natural for us to go into that next week. Gerald, with um, gratitude for your suggestion of life. I think that really would be interesting, but it a little bit too deep. But you actually did bring up trust right at the beginning, and it's kind of hung over this session. I think with some power, some energy, and so
I
let's
think
do that.
with today talking about confidence and me seeing an awful lot of gratitude in it,
Yeah.
it's all about like um, being grateful for the opportunity. Whereas no life is, I mean, like I wasn't looking at the big conversation and not being able to get it in because I see life as an opportunity, and I don't think an awful lot of people see it that way.
Hmm.
I mean, and being grateful for that opportunity,
Yeah.
and all we're really in control of is the now, and that takes you back to the present. To
Yeah, well, I think
and
that you're absolutely right, and I think you can factor that in as we go with these other things. But let's go with trust. Then we need to wrap this up right away. So let's go with trust and Maestro. Cue the ending.
All right. So, guys, remember, find us on YouTube, like and subscribe so that you can not miss any of these conversations. Have a good one.
bye.